Welcome everyone to the Susan Lieu Talk workshop. We'll be starting soon. Nikki, did you want to share the land acknowledgement and community guidelines before we move on?
Yes, definitely. Oh, nope. Sorry about that. Let's see if I can get it back up. Okay. I would like all of us to take a moment to reflect on where we are located today, where we work, and where we call home. While we're all connected virtually, Highline is where many of us will eventually return, and it is located on unceded stolen territory of the Muckleshoot, Duwamish, Puyallup, and many other tribes who made their homes on these lands and along these waters. Let's pay respect and gratitude to the elders, past, present, and future, for they hold the memories, the traditions, and the cultures of this area, which has become a place for learning for people from all over the world. Let us also recognize the continued struggles for sovereignty and decolonization led by Indigenous peoples here and around the world. And let's all encourage one another to think about our own positionalities and to be active participants and allies in these movements. Okay. A few community guidelines to set some ground rules for our conversation today. One is first draft. So we encourage you to share what's on your mind, knowing that maybe the first time you articulate it or first time you speak up, it's not exactly perfect. That's okay. You can always come back and revise your first thought and continue to build on what you're sharing. This is a space for learning and growth, and that's okay. So also take care of yourself. If you need to step away, take a drink of water, please do so. Use the restroom, eat some food. If you have not already eaten lunch, definitely grab something if you can. Use I statements only, especially if you're sharing something that comes from your perspective, your own personal experience. Make sure to use I statements without generalizing to everyone. Confidentiality. This is a common guideline. What the story stays here, but the lesson leaves. We'll be hearing a little bit about Susan's story and the lessons that you learn from Susan's stories. We want you to share those lessons. Impact over intent. Sometimes we say things that we didn't intend for it to, that wasn't our intentions for the way that it was received, but the impact also matters. So rather than just thinking about what your intentions were, it also matters how, what impact your words have. And feel free, other folks, if I'm missing anything, or if you'd like to add to any of the other community guidelines, feel free to pop on. Ooch, ooch, I said this before, ooch. When I see that, it's ouch, oops, snap. Vocalize your feelings. You can use the reactions button. Yeah, go ahead, Nestor.
Yeah, use the reaction buttons and feel free to type your reactions in the chat box as well. Like, you know, if you like something, you can give someone a snaps in the snap box or in the chat box. You know, if you didn't agree with something, say ouch in the box as well, or, you know, things like that. So feel free to express yourself on the group chat and also using the reaction buttons as well.
Want to keep going, Nestor?
Yeah, sure. Then step up and step back. So we want to make sure that, you know, that this is a comfortable learning space for everyone to come in and to have conversations and to learn and grow. So we want everyone to be aware of the space that they occupy. So like if you find yourself talking a little bit too much, you know, maybe give the space to other people to bring their own knowledge and their own feedback as well. And if you feel like you haven't been sharing enough, please don't be shy, you know, feel free to, or if you're comfortable, we would love to have you share more of your knowledge with us in this space also. Yeah, and you know, silence is okay. There's a lot of heavy topics that we might be covering, And, sometimes, people are still processing at different speeds. And, some of these things, are still sinking in, and that's okay. And so there's moments of silence, then, just bash yourself into silence and let everything just process. Yeah, leave space for growth. Like I said, we come here in these spaces with different, I guess, knowledge, and we're all here to grow as one, as we're learning together. And so, I want to make sure that you also aware that other people are coming from different levels and they're growing at different speeds as well. And so, don't be, I guess, just acknowledge that some people are experts, some people are still learning. This might be their first time encountering these topics, and I want to make sure and acknowledge that, and to let people know that that's okay and that people can come in with different levels of knowledge. And the other one is don't yuck my yum. So basically, try not, like, if you don't like someone or someone's opinion of things like that, try not to be judgmental. Try to, like, see it from their perspective. A good example I like to use, like, is food. I'm part Filipino, so I love bagoong. Most people don't like bagoong, which is like fermented shrimp paste, and it smells very bad, and people don't like it. But that's something that's very delicious to myself. And so, don't judge something unless you tried it first, or can see from that person's perspective. And then if you have any others, feel free to include or add into the chat box as well. And, or yeah, just let us know too.
All right, thank you so much. I'm going to turn on my video to do Susan's introduction, and then I'm going to immediately turn it off. But thank you everyone so much for coming. We're so excited for you to join us, and I'm super excited to introduce you all to Susan. So I'm going to read quickly from a bio that bio that she made for us. So Susan Lieu is a Vietnam American activist, playwright, and performer who tells stories that refuse to be forgotten. With a vision for individual and community healing made possible through the interplay of comedy and drama, her work delves deeply into the lived realities of body insecurity, grieving, and trauma. Her first theatrical solo show, 140 Pounds How Beauty Killed My Mother, is a true story of how her mother died from plastic surgery malpractice when Liu was 11 years old, and her subsequent search to find her mother's killer. Susan self-produced a nearly sold-out 10-city national tour of her debut show with accolades from NBC News, LA Times, NPR, The Washington Post, The Lily, American Theater, the San Francisco Chronicle, and the Seattle Times. Susan held a sold-out world premiere of the sequel, Over 140 Pounds, in February 2020 in Seattle's ACT Theater. She has performed iterations of the story 51 times to 6,000 people in the past year. Her work has been showcased with the Winged Loop Museum, the Moth at the Benaroya Hall, and On the Boards, Risk, Bumbershoot, and the World Economic Forum. In addition, Liu collaborated with the Seattle Public Library and Bucket Theater to adapt and play the main character of The Best We Could Do, a graphic novel on the Vietnamese American or the Vietnamese refugee experience as part of the citywide Seattle Reads program, which Nikki and I attended together last year. Susan has a BA from Harvard and an MBA from Yale. Along with her bio, I also wanted to include a little quick, brief personal bio as well. I personally had the opportunity to see her show 3 times because I like to cry. And I got to see her show premiere during Snowmageddon in 2019. And I honestly didn't know what I was walking into. I did not know that it was a one-woman show. So when she came out by herself, it was a surprise, but it also was overwhelming, beautiful, and freeing. I felt like I was sitting with my child self and telling her that things would be okay. I didn't know that she could capture all of the beautiful, funny, and annoying things that remind me of my mom and my aunties and everything that I love about being Viet. So I came up to her after the show to buy a signed poster and to give her a hug, and I didn't know what to say, so I just came up to her and I just said, I don't like it when my family talks about my weight too. And I was like, that's not what I meant. I feel so superficial, but that was the only thing I could say because I think she really captured that part for me too. So I felt a little bit embarrassed, and I thanked her. I asked for a hug, and when she gave me the hug, I was like, does she know I'm a stranger? This is like the warmest hug I've received all month. I remember feeling so embraced. I was like, why am I feeling so emotional? The stranger doesn't even know me. But like I said, since then I saw her show 2 more times, each time learning something new. and pushing myself to be brave in my healing, to be brave in reconciling pain and trauma in my family, and to be brave in loving myself and my community wholeheartedly. So I'm so excited for you to hear from Susan, and I hope we are friends after this, Susan. So I'm going to turn off my mic and turn it over to you.
Oh my goodness, Kathy, thank you so much for a warm introduction. You made me cry. Um, I am so happy to be joining you all for this special month for Highline Community College. Thank you so much to the AANAPISI staff, May Lukens, and also Kathy for bringing me here today. So you all are making my COVID life much better. So thank you so much for tuning in today. So let me just get to it and start sharing my screen. Y'all all signed up here for a talk called Blazing Your Own Trail, The Options When You're Asian. And as you heard from my bio, I am Vietnamese American, and I also happen to be a performance artist, a creative, which isn't necessarily something that my family or my culture said was an option to me when I was growing up. So today I want to spend the rest of our hour together talking a little bit more about my journey to be here, being a part of a non-traditional career. And then I want to share with you my learnings of all the tips, all the failures, everything that I learned along the way of having how to actually carve my own path, my own trail. And no matter where you are on the path, hopefully you can find something that's helpful for you today. So before I get started, I wanted to take a quick poll, and we're going to have two questions come up on the screen. The first one is, do you ever feel pressure from your family, culture, or identity to pursue a career or job you don't want? So feel free to take a couple seconds, click yes or no. And then the second question is, do you plan to pursue the career or job you actually do want post Highline College? And I know we've got a lot of people that are tuning in from all across the country. So the question is are you pursuing the career or job you actually want? All right, I know we have over 40, possibly 50 people tuning in today, so I'll give it a couple more seconds. Okay. So, I mean, it looks like 70% of us feel, yeah, there is quite a bit of pressure to pursue something we don't want. And I'm actually really excited to see that over 83% of everyone joining on the call is actually pursuing that path. So take whatever, it sounds like y'all are blazing your own trails now, but that's great to hear. So hopefully you can find something that's valuable to you today. Awesome. I just wanted to understand where we were in the room. Now, in the chat window, I want you to list out, what does your family hope you become? So take a quick hot second, and then in the chat, just type in things that you've heard from your family of what they expect you to be. Teacher, nurse, happy, STEM, pharmacist, banker, what else? Pharmacist, doctor, engineer. But always the one to drop things and take care of the family. Doctor, nurse, lawyer, college grad, housewife, doctor, engineer. So, I mean, what I find in common to all of this is there was something about being financially stable, having a predictable career, having a salary, having benefits. And what I see that is a reflection of the past of where people have come. You know, being API, many of our family members, whether it's 1, 2, 3 generations removed, have come from war, whether they are the immigrants or they were directly in that war, or we are children of war. And so a lot of what they've asked us to be is layered from their past. But at the same time, how do we reconcile what they want for us, the safety, the stability, versus what we want for ourselves? This is a picture that haunts me. I'm 8th grade. That's my dad. And we're in our family nail salon in Northern California. This is about 2 years after my mom has died. And that night, I am going to get an award from the city of Santa Rosa, for the community service work that I did. And even though we look joyful in this picture, I'll be honest with you that my dad is completely confused about my life choices. I had done student government, I had done community service, and every time I would, ask him for a ride to go somewhere or ask him if he wanted to go to an award ceremony, his responses were always, I have to work, I don't have time, and can you just stop doing that? Can you just focus on school? Why are you doing that? And it was so hard for me to explain to him that I felt a lot of validation that I never got from home by doing these other activities. And it was very hard for me to explain that I felt a sense of self-worth and a sense of joy and power by doing these other activities. So when you look at this picture, even though we're physically close, we're emotionally distant. We're frustrated with each other. We come from really different worlds. And to be honest, he still feels the same way about the path that I've taken to be a performance artist. And he had asked me to take Houston off the national tour if I wanted to have a relationship with him, so I did. And he said he'll never ever come to a show. I want to actually show you a clip from 140 Pounds because I think you'll get a better sense of our family and our family dynamic, which is critical to the path that I chose. So here we go.
Kids say stupid things to their parents all the time. What I didn't realize was that Friday, September 27th, 1996, was the last day I would ever see my mom. That morning, she went in for plastic surgery. A tummy tuck, the narrowing of her nostrils, and a chin implant, and figured she'd be home the next day with her beautiful new body.
You know, Susan, people deal with death in all different ways. Have you considered a therapist?
I'm trying to avenge my mom's death here. I really think this could be it.
I'm a size 8 and I'm married up because he's Korean!
The gold standard for Asian hotness. Oh, shit. Thank you for coming all the way from Rwanda. I love the Vitamix. I'm definitely gonna use it.
Hong, what's happening? Man, you're going wild. Hey, Ecuador. Oh, Ma? Is that you?
Last year, I retraced the steps of my mom's last day following the same exact schedule. I woke up at 5 a.m. and drove to the plastic surgery clinic.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animals! Auntie Susan doesn't believe in toys, so you get a savings bond, you get a savings bond, you get a savings bond. Okay. Want some? You had this the whole time? You can reach them at 1-800-DEP-E. That's 1-800.
Pretty as you wish. And the #1 customers for plastic surgery amongst the Vietnamese? Nail salon workers.
How come you only want to talk about sad thing? Why not happy thing?
I'm just trying to find out the truth.
The truth? You only focus on how she died. Why not how hard she worked? 6-7 days a week, all the weekend. She do everything for you. Regular ticket, one try. Guaranteed ticket, all you can try. And she tried many times.
For 1 month, we wait.
Bà con ơi, vô đi! Bà con ơi, vô đi! Remember how you always used to invite us to go out and play? We always want to stay back and work? Well, come back, and we're gonna play one last time. This Christmas, we can go to Reno and play that stupid game you like, Keno. And we can use all your winnings for the all-you-can-eat buffet. For the family. Okay, you eat all my food, you make me cry, now you go home! Trời ơi, I grab our 3-foot-long Hello Kitty doll, I throw her on the couch, I beat the shit out of her saying, "This is what you do to me when you say I'm too fat!" We meet in 73, during the war. The first thing I ever give your mom was crabs. Excuse me? In Vietnam, when you give woman crab, she won't marry you.
And it would be really great if you could make it more obvious when you're around, but don't do anything creepy like write on a steamy mirror or anything. Don't cover up the story. Don't cover up the story. Don't cover up the story. I'll have the chicken feet.
No, too fatty. How about the shrimp dumplings steam? Good for you. You die from a tummy tuck and now you're telling me what I can and can't eat? I steal your mom. And I see everything. And I see when you're smoking the pot, you get all the high. Then you eat one bag potato chip, and then you sad you cannot wear bikini. And cut the avenge my mom stuff. Not cute, I don't like. When you were a little girl, what did you want to be when you grew up? What did you love about me? Does it make you feel sad when I hate my body too? When I light incense for you and ask you for help, does it really work? How would I know for sure? If I have a girl, how do I make her love her body? When can you hold me again?
I come from a family of hustlers, spirit channelers, and survivors, and I'm not gonna let one negligent man control my destiny or my mother's story. I'm 140 pounds. She was 140 pounds, and so much more.
So that's an excerpt of my first show, 140 Pounds, How Beauty Killed My Mother. And it was something that I needed to do. It was something that I needed to do before I thought I was ready to have kids. And what I didn't realize that in the process of doing that is I built a community. Every night there was audiences from all over the country that saw my family's story and saw their own family. They saw my suffering that I have had as an Asian American, as a woman, as just a human being walking on this planet, and they saw themselves. And so what I didn't realize I was going to do was every night when I walk on stage, I was creating a portal for healing, for me to grieve my mother's own death, and for everyone else to also grieve and heal something inside of them. I've been blessed along this journey to receive accolades from national press because I decided to quit my corporate job as a management consultant and become an artist full-time and put on a national tour in 10 different cities in this past year. And what I learned along the way is that when I fully share my vulnerable story, everyone else can see their own. And I had fun. I used to be a stand-up comedian years ago in San Francisco, and I was able to incorporate all parts of my personality on stage to tell a story that was strikingly true and honest about my family, yet at the same time allowed people to go deep with me so they could go deep with themselves. But even despite all this success that people would see on one level, like, wow, Susan, you get funding from, the city of Seattle, the county, King County, state of Washington. Wow, you were able to get all this press. No matter, you can slice it and dice it like, oh, wow, you were quote unquote successful. You are enough. I still go back to this picture because I don't feel enough. I feel the disappointment from my father, his expectations that he had sacrificed so much to be a boat person from Vietnam, to raise our family in America when we had nothing, to be a widowed father, to raise 4 kids. You know, I went to Harvard, I went to Yale, and he had expected me to make that money, and that would be successful, and he would be proud. And so even though I feel like I am on my path, I also feel that I have this burden on my shoulders that I'm not a good Vietnamese daughter, that I should do something different. And I tried to do something different. After my MBA from Yale, I worked in corporate America for 5 years, and since coming to Seattle, I worked in tech and startups, and I got all the things that my dad always wanted me to have: stability, a 401k, health insurance, a dependable regular salary, paid vacation. These are all the things that he never had being a nail salon owner. But at the same time, every day I was driving to work, I had a completely empty, numb feeling. I wasn't sure if it was the Seattle freeze or just, post grad. Like, why did I feel so bad? And even though those 5 years in Seattle, I was making more money than I had ever made in my entire life, I was more sad than I had ever been in my entire life. I got married in 2015, and, when you get married, your family, for me being Vietnamese American daughter, your family is always like, when you gonna have baby? When you gonna have baby? But the question is how am I gonna have a baby when I have this very empty feeling that something is not right? And I wanted to reconcile that. So I told my husband, look, I'm not gonna be ready to be a mom because I feel like a coward. I feel like I'm living in fear. And until I pursue this calling of being a performance artist, whether it's a hobby or a career, I just want to know that I tried, because I don't want to live and look to my child and in a way lie to them by saying, you can follow your own dreams, you can do what you want in life, if I was not doing it myself. So that's why I chose the performance artist path, is because I didn't want to have a lack of integrity, a feeling of being a coward to my child. So I followed my passion, and it got me to here. And I think following your passion is a misnomer. People always say, people like Oprah, people like Hallmark cards, are follow your bliss, pursue your passion and everything will happen. But it's a really scary thing to do. Because the question is one, how do you know if you've ever found it? 2, how do you even know what to go look for? And then 3, especially, recognizing us APIs, how do you do all this when there's family obligations to take care of your family, give them money, or not disappoint them? And as we did in the chat earlier, disappointment's pretty clear. There are expectations that come with our identities. So how do you do this? Well, friends, I'm out on the other side. I feel like I'm on my path now, and I have a foolproof way on how to find your passion. It looks like this. It's not linear. It's not direct. It's not like a checkoff list that you can pursue. Following your passion is circular, and it's messy, and it's full of stops and starts and a lot of failure. This is my diagram to getting to this moment, to talking to you today. Here I am, born. A significant thing happened in my life, which was my mom's death, which totally put me for a loop and started forming my values and my identity. And then for the past 20 years, I've taken on a lot of experiments, followed my curiosity, gotten into a lot of trouble, but really realized what I did like and what I didn't like. And that led me to this moment where I feel like I am on my path. I am living in integrity, and I'm more happy than I've ever been. So I guess what I wanted to say is, even though I thought, you know, finding your passion, I always was jealous that I was never someone where, you know, I want to be a chemistry professor. And to do that, it's very clear. You get your PhD in chemistry, you know, you become an associate professor at different schools, you get on tenure track, and then boom, you're this thing. You are successful. You pursued the thing that you were looking for. I think life is just more messy than that. And what was really pivotal for me was my mom's death. You know, I think I remember, you know, she died when I was in 6th grade, and after my mom's funeral, I spent a week at home grieving. Really just, my dad didn't know what to do. We didn't hug, we didn't talk. He just said, "Why don't you read a lot of books, and when you feel ready, go back to school." A week later, I went back to school. I'm sitting on the playground. This girl, Jessica, she comes up to me and she's like, "What's wrong with you? Your mom die or something?" And that's exactly what I didn't want to hear. I started sobbing. And my 11-year-old self was thinking, wait a minute, how can I pity myself? I still have a home. I still have food. I still have one parent. I still have privilege. And I realized that, yes, what happened to my family was a tragedy. But at the same time, I still had my own form of privilege. And it was right then and there that I decided I want to dedicate my life to social justice. I want to live a life where we're making the world more equitable. And so I just encourage you to think about, when you think about the peaks and valleys in your own life, what has happened in your life to form who you are today, think about what those moments were and what you learned from it, because that's a place to think about your values. And from there, it can help lend you to get to your path sooner. Now, I want to be honest about myself. I feel like I'm a pretty complex being, and I think all humans are pretty complex. And pursuing my passion, I always felt like I was all over the place. I had a lot of different interests that weren't very similar to each other, and it was very confusing. But that's who we are. We're just really complex beings. And I want to tell you a couple of my own traits that I've learned over time of who I am, because it then informed why I am a performance artist today. The first thing I knew was that I really cared about social impact. I wanted more justice in the world. As I had told you, after my mom died, that was a very vivid moment for me, where I was like, I know that that's what I'm supposed to do. I just don't know how I'm going to do it. Over the years, I've traveled all around the world to answer my question, how am I going to serve others and make a difference in society? I've worked in countries all over the world. Here I am in India working on a water and sanitation project. During my MBA, interviewing different households on how products can help them have clean water. I've been to Cuba 5 times when I was in college as a humanitarian rights worker, bringing goods to those that were working towards human rights. And here I am in Zambia in college. I was working in a refugee camp, which felt like full circle because, my parents were living in a refugee camp in Malaysia after they escaped from Vietnam. And here I am working on an HIV/AIDS prevention program using soccer. So, I had traveled all over the world, and I still felt something I'll just be totally honest about. I felt like I was a terrible grassroots organizer. I felt like even though my heart was in a good place, there was still like I wasn't good at it, And that's kind of frustrating because you want to be good at the things you care about. But constantly, I think when you're trying to figure out what your path is trying to find out the intersection of what you're good at, what you really enjoy, and what brings you value and brings you all the things that you need in your life, whether that's money or location, things like that. So that's my social impact self, right? Which was a whole bunch of different discovery, a whole bunch of different experiences. And let me tell you, I've always found a way to pay for it by finding scholarships, applying for grants, things like that, because, you know, we were low income. We didn't always have this ability for, I could never ask my dad to pay for anything, but I found a way to do it because I knew that there was something there for me and I felt a calling. But I told you there's many parts of me. And the second thing was I was always feeling pulled in another direction to be an entrepreneur. You know, growing up in a nail salon, I saw my parents work 7 days a week, and they took 5 days off during the year, right? Major holidays, Christmas, 4th of July, things like that. And I saw how hard they worked, and it reminded me to have that grit and that hustle in me. So when I was in high school, my sister and I started a chocolate company. Sokala means chocolate in Vietnamese. And my sister and I were able to incorporate our heritage of being Vietnamese into the flavors of the chocolates. And it has been 19 years since we first started this company. We use all these different flavors from growing up at home, like jasmine tea, matcha, durian, sriracha chili. And we spent the next 19 years building this company. I mean, this is what the end product looks like. The first product didn't look so good. If you see here our Valentine's Day collection in the upper left-hand corner, Tình yêu means love. And we're able to incorporate all the people we love in our lives and their languages into our chocolates. We have, you know, been able to incorporate a sense of fun. So I was the chief marketing officer and chief operating officer, so I got to build the brand. And here's our durian chocolates, the king of fruits. So there was something really fun in being able to incorporate who we are as sisters and family into the products that we do. On the bus here, that's in San Francisco. I got to be on the bus. Never planned for that. And we always had fun. This is us being Lucy and Ethel. And what I realized from that experience is, yes, I wanted to help my sister and build her dream of this chocolate company, but where I really came alive was when I got to entertain people. Here we are at Williams-Sonoma doing a chocolate cooking demo, and then this is me as a chocolate bar, because I realized, hey, if we want to launch the sriracha chili truffle, what came to mind to me is, well, obviously, we should just create a chocolate telenovela about how a chocolate bar falls in love with a bottle of sriracha chili, make it a 3-part series, and launch this product to get us a lot of press. It was a lot of work, but it was so much fun. And it was in trying to support my sister's dream that I was able to see who I was and like where I felt value in contributing to the company. There's still 3 parts of me. And here's the third one. I knew that, yes, I wanted to make a difference with social impact. Yes, I was an entrepreneur, but where did I come alive the most? And that was being creative, right? And so I did what any irrational person does before, in 2011, there was a Mayan calendar, okay? And they basically said that 2012 would be the end of the world. And so I was nervous that it was going to be true. It wasn't true. It's kind of like Y2K. Nothing really happened. But in 2011, I said, hey, what would be my biggest regret if we all died? And my biggest regret was if I didn't pursue stand-up comedy. So I did. A few months later, I started going to all these open mics, and eventually, I think in about 5 or 6 months, I was headlining a show. On the right-hand side, that's me doing a set at Caroline's on Broadway in New York City. And my favorite thing is this man's face. I think I'm like comparing how my period smells like fish sauce, and he is not having it right there. But for me, it's like I wanted to have comedy that was about me being a woman and me being Vietnamese American, because it was a white male dominated space, and that was what I felt qualified to talk about, and he clearly felt embarrassed about it. But the thing is I felt alive. I felt alive, and it was so scary. There were times that I got heckled off stage, and that was completely traumatizing. So a few years ago, after I got married, I wanted to get back on stage, but I was very intimidated to do that. So I started to experiment again. And on the left-hand side, this is me at Jet City Improv in Seattle, and I wanted to be a part of a team, so everyone could support each other and I could have direction, and that if I bombed, someone could save me, which was great. And I learned a lot, and sometimes I did bomb on stage, but the team was always saving each other, so it was okay. On the right-hand side, I actually headlined the theater category at Bumbershoot, which is a very large arts and music festival in Seattle. And I started writing about my mom's story. And I thought it was just going to be one show, and one show just kept leading to another show. And to headline at Bumbershoot was big for me. And this was in 2018. And that was after I actually had gotten laid off from my management consulting job. And I had come to a crossroads, which is like, hey, keep finding jobs that I'm qualified for that will maximize income with my MBA. Or what would it look like if I took this leap and tried to make this a career? And so Bumbershoot was that first show where, I'm living off my savings and I'm just, riding this roller coaster of not really sure if this is going to work out. But I just kept going. And along the way, I clarified my story, clarified the show, and that led me to here, to this moment. Like I said, this is how I blazed my own trail, is about going in different directions where I just followed my curiosity and I just kept experimenting. In a way, it's just as important to understand what you don't like as much as what you do like. I bombed on stage many times as a stand-up comic, and it was terrifying. And for years, I thought, who am I kidding? I suck at this. But I found my way back. And I found my way back saying, okay, well, I do love performance, but maybe stand-up comedy isn't going to be the way. And doing a show where I'm a solo performer, which means you're not buying a ticket to come heckle someone that night. You're just going to hear a story. You don't know what it's going to be like. I found my medium of what works for me. So there's a lot of facets to me. And your 3 words, or however many those words are, it is yours and specific to you. But as you can see, mine were all fueled by my heritage, by my life experiences, and by things that were innately me. And together, I saw that, okay, they, they, in a way, on the surface level, don't feel like they have anything in common. But at the same time, this was my truth. So as much as I wanted to be that chemistry professor where it just seemed like, oh, when you succeeded, by me recognizing that there are just different parts of me, and that's okay. In fact, it's beautiful. It's what makes me me. When I was able to accept and realize that I was a creative, that I had a business mind, that all these things can coexist in me, that I'm both Vietnamese and I am both American, in a way, by embracing all things that were unique and especially defining to me, I felt this sense of harmony. And I felt this sense of completion. Because when I'm able to combine all 3 of these values, these traits that make me uniquely me, I was able to walk my own path as a performance artist. Because as a performance artist, I'm doing all these 3 things all the time. I get to talk about, on the social impact lens, I get to talk about beauty standards and mental illness and grief and loss and refugee and immigrant issues. As an entrepreneur, I am living that hustle life. As a producer, putting on my shows, figuring out my tours, selling tickets. And as a creative, I get to share stories that are important to me that I don't see on stage. And the more that people can see themselves on stage, the more they feel whole and complete. The more that they're able to look at things that they're not willing to look at. And hopefully that can remove stagnant energy for them to keep going to where they want to go. And I'm able to do that because I was curious and I continued to pursue this feeling, because only I knew when I went to bed at night if I felt empty. And I kept pursuing it and pursuing it and pursuing it. And there have been tears and there have been laughter. But at the same time, I now feel a sense of completion. So in terms of the tips, like, how do you find your passion? How do you blaze your own trail? I think that these are the three most important questions on the journey. The first one is what do I value? What is important to me no matter what? What am I not willing to give up and compromise? Second question is what gives me life? A mentor of mine once said that there's, whenever anything happens in life, it's either one of two things. It's either life taking or it's life giving. And I did plenty of life taking things. And I thought, if I'm supposed to be my parents' wildest dreams, if they had sacrificed so much for me to have this life of freedom and choice, why am I doing something that's life taking? What is life giving? And so that final question leads me to asking, what can I try? What can I be curious about and try? What is one small step that can get me one step closer? For me, I wanted to be an entertainer. I wanted to be a performer. I didn't know what that was going to look like. And frankly, I feel like YouTube personalities and influencers, they're so intimidating that if I had uploaded a video and I didn't get 1 million views, maybe that means I just suck. Maybe it means I should just stop. Who am I kidding? But I think there is power in boldness. I think there is something about when you just try and pursue that inkling of curiosity, learn a little bit more, put yourself out there just to see what it's like, you'll get more information. You'll figure out, do I like this? Do I not? Okay, that didn't work for me, but maybe if I just, rotate the Rubik's Cube just a little bit, maybe that's going to work for me. These are the three questions that I would challenge you to reflect on. Because in these very simple questions, you will get more information. And more information, more trying, more experiences, more feelings of, hey, maybe I'm getting closer. Maybe I am on the path. Maybe I'm definitely not on the path. After these 2 years of being a full-time performance artist, I still go to therapy. I still talk about my dad, and I still want his approval. So there is still this big question of whose approval do I want versus need? I want my dad's approval. I really do. I want to be this good Vietnamese daughter that gives him money every month, which I don't anymore because, my income isn't very stable. I want to give him all those things, but at the same time, the approval I need the most is frankly from myself. And that's a very American thing to think, right? To have individual needs. I'm Vietnamese American, and that Vietnamese self is like, no, Susan, don't listen to what you need. That's not Confucian. You're breaking social harmony. You shouldn't even have individual needs. It's about the family. And you're not thinking about the family right now. In fact, what you're doing is exposing a very precious, shameful part of our family past. So stop. But at the same time, I need my own approval. I'm the only one who goes to bed every night to think, am I happy? And so there's this difficulty, you got to reconcile your different identities, your different obligations, and frankly, for me, my different amount of privilege. I went to Harvard. I went to Yale. I was a low-income student at Harvard, so most of my school was paid for, and I didn't, graduate college with a lot of loans. That allowed me to experiment a lot, to take on all these risks. And I know everyone's not in that situation. So I definitely want to acknowledge that. But at the same time, what I do believe is that the past always catches up with us. I still think about that night in 8th grade where I wanted my dad to feel so proud of me, but he wasn't. And on the right-hand side, that's me for my graduation at Yale. He's having a good time with me. He thought I would make a lot of money after getting an MBA. And he still doesn't fully understand what I do for a living. I can't deny how I feel on stage. I can't deny this energy I get that makes me feel so alive when I get to be with others and share a story of so much intimacy that brings so much connection to me, to myself, to me, to my dead mother, to me, to my audience, for audience members and their family. I am always getting notes from people about what my show has done for them. I love being on stage. There is a part of me that feels so complete that no one can ever give, but the stage can give for me. And I realize that, yes, I'm pursuing my own path, but in incorporating my heritage and my family story on stage, sharing our stories that are rarely told on the main stage, this is the very thing that actually makes me very unique as a performer, as a producer, as a playwright. So in a way, even though I'm pursuing my path, it's my very heritage, the thing that says don't pursue your path, that is making me add new flavor and bringing recognition and an amazing story on stage. It's really ironic, but that's what I found to be true, is that by me showing up 100% fully me on stage, I was finally feeling proud of myself. And I got positive accolades from the rest of the world as well. I love what I get to do. Here, these are 3 different sisters. They're Vietnamese American. 2 flew up from San Jose to see the show in February. And there's just so much beauty in is what happening. I love my work. And here are my siblings. 2 of them came to do Q&A after one of the shows. On the far left-hand side is my brother. To the right of that's my sister Wendy. And by doing this work, we've become closer to our mother, who we've never talked about after she died. There's one brother that will never want to come to a show, and my dad doesn't want to come to a show, but there's still something about family, and as dysfunctional that family is, there's something still so beautiful about these people who have known me my entire life. So I'd like to close this talk with a few tips. The first one is to discover what is life giving to you through curious experimentation. Acknowledge the expectations that have been set for you from your family, your culture, and all the ways that inform your identity. Reassess what serves you. It's totally individualistic. It's totally American. But you got to think about, how do you feel? Is this working for you? Do you want to keep saying that these are the expectations you live by? Redesign your life to achieve your goals and vision. Maybe it's not tomorrow you're going to, pivot your entire career and become a performance artist like I did, but recognize that you are still the creator in your own life. You are the architect, and you can start creating a plan to achieve your vision. And finally, honor the people who have come before you and the people who come after you. I don't say to blaze your own trail and like steamroll everyone in the process. Everyone has come together to actually make you you. Whether you've resisted it or fought it, them challenging you actually refines who you want to be. So it can actually be a gift, even though it can be painful. And finally, 4 honest tips. Curiosity is king. Follow it. There's truth and power in following that. Be bold. The hustle is real. I've never worked harder in my life, but never felt more satisfied in my life. So I don't say like, hey, when you blaze your own trail, it's like, it's real easy. It's hard work. tap your support tribe. I call friends when I feel down. I have my therapist. This isn't done alone. It's with the community to support you when you doubt yourself. And then learn through failure. Failure is not sexy. We always want to look at success and be like, see, I did it. But I think when failure happens, like when I got heckled and booed off stage as a stand-up comic, I didn't want to look at it for years. But by looking at it and learning a little bit more and being honest about why I got booed off stage, or to grow a second skin and think, you know, okay, they were right about this, but you know what? I still can have my dreams. I can still pursue it no matter what. There was great learning in that. So those are my tips. And I want to leave you with one last question. Well, one more thing. Have you ever seen that t-shirt that says, I am my ancestors' wildest dreams? I think it's the coolest t-shirt ever. Our ancestors had sacrificed so much for us to get here, to have choice. They wanted us to have a life where we didn't fear for our lives anymore, to have freedom. And here we are in America. And all of us on this call today, we have different access and privilege to do what we want. So it might not be as easy for everyone to be like, okay, I'm going to start pursuing this tomorrow. So we all have our own privilege. But I still think we all have choice. And I think blazing your own trail is a result of small choices every day that add up. And when you look back over a month, a year, a few years, a decade, you can see that you have progress. And you can see that you did blaze your own trail. Maybe it's a trail for others to follow, but it's really about you and for you to feel complete. So I want you to take 30 seconds. And I want you to think about one small action that you can take on to explore a curiosity that you have. Something that's been itching at you. Something that you wonder, what would it feel like to do? Maybe something you really admire about others. What is one thing, one small action that you could do in the next 3 months to pursue a calling? Just think about what that thing is. And now I'm going to pop up a poll up here. Will you take that one small action to explore the career or job you want in the next 3 months? Be honest. You can vote right now. Great. All right. Looks like at least 95% of you are saying yeah. So I invite you to do it. Look, I took a risk. I blazed my own trail. I'm happy. I'm frustrated. I work hard, but I'm here. And I'm here because all parts of me are now living day to day. There's no one part of me that I deny. So think about your values and what drives you and what feeds you and what gives you life. And remember that when you combine them all together, you can be operating at a nexus of a place of full living. And I encourage you to do that. All right, so that's my talk for today. My Instagram is Susan Lieu. If you want to be on my mailing list, you can hit me up at Susan Show. And there's an evaluation for this workshop at bit.ly/PI workshop eval.